If you want to progress in the path of Advaita, you need to inquire into what is the mind. If you don't understand or realize what the mind is about, your progress will be limited. So inquire into the mind. What is the mind really? Ramana Maharshi says that the mind is the world. You could say, in this line of thinking, the mind is the world and the world is the mind. And it is true. But it is not enough to memorize it. You need to realize it. You need to inquire into the mind and the nature of the mind until you realize that the mind is the world. Other teachers have said that the mind is also pure consciousness. That ultimately the mind is pure consciousness. Well, that's very nice, but how do I realize that, right? Again, well, you need to keep inquiring into the nature of the mind. Inquiring means investigating, right? In the human experience, you have your own laboratory, which is the human experience. So you investigate, you observe, you watch, you ask for help if necessary, help from the divine to get it, to get the understanding and realizations that you are looking for. Don't go into this type of serious inquiries and difficult just with the power of the ego. So in this video I'm going to give you some tips and points to think about and to inquire about, so that you can have an easier ride, and it can make a big difference. What I'm going to share with you is simple, but it will give you a big push into coming to realize what the mind is really. So when you begin to look within and you investigate what the mind is about, you look into the human experience, so to speak, you begin to see that there are some mental objects that have been identified by psychology pretty well. For example, emotions. Emotions are a mental object, and they can be observed in the human experience. It's not difficult. Next time you feel angry, just notice the sensation of anger in the body, in the mind, body-mind, and there it is. You have identified a clear mental object. Then you may say, well, wait a minute. I thought that the mind had to do with thinking, right? With the monkey mind that is here, just thinking, nothing to do with emotions, which are feelings. Well, this is the first thing that needs to be understood. The mind is not just thoughts. Thoughts is the masculine aspect of the mind. The mind is also feeling. There are plenty of feelings in the mind, and it's the feminine aspect of the mind. So in the mind there are thoughts and feelings at the very least. And in the old teachings of Hermes Trismegisto, for example, in Egypt, he called the thinking aspect of the mind the masculine side, and the feeling aspect the feminine side. So in his model of the mind, which was pretty simple but in a way spectacular, he says the mind is a dance of thoughts and feelings. Thoughts creates feeling, feelings create thought. There is a dance between the masculine and the feminine aspects of the mind, and that dance is the mind. This is a very good starting point, but even Western psychology has gone further. Western psychology has identified, of course, that there are emotions in the body, but that there are also cognitions or thoughts in the head. So there you have two mental objects already. But there is another mental object which is called drives. What drives you in life? That includes plans, goals, desires, instincts, habits, addictions, and so on. Different words to subdivide the drives, what motivates you in life. Without drives, when you lose the motivation, it means you are depressed. And a deep loss of motivation leads to death. Depression is not actually sadness. That's sometimes is there, sometimes isn't. But lack of motivation is the mark of depression. So now we have at least three mental objects: emotions, thoughts, and also drives. If we keep looking within, if you keep investigating, inquiring into the mind, you will find that there are also beliefs. Beliefs are similar to thoughts, but they have much more energy. And there are two types of beliefs. Beliefs that you have about the world and life, your political beliefs, for example, your beliefs about ecology and the environment, and beliefs about me. You have both. And the beliefs about me is what we call the ego. A bunch of beliefs. That's what the ego is about. So, is any other mental object? Yes, a very important one. Before any belief about you or the world, in the baby there are sensations. Sensations come from the five senses. So you have 5 different types of sensations. So there you have 5 mental objects. and they are all dualistic. If you keep investigating into their nature, you see that they are all dualistic. They can be positive or negative. So now these 5 mental objects are dancing. Again, same concept. Dancing. Meaning one creates another. A sensation creates a thought. That thought triggers an emotion. The emotion puts you into motion, into doing something, gives you a motivation, a drive, and so on and so on. So there is a dance of these mental objects, and there is something watching the dance. But that is no mind, right? So the mind is the dance of the mental objects, and no mind is that which is watching the mental objects, the dance of the mental objects. So there it is. Begin to investigate all this. With just these few minutes of the tips that I have given you, you can investigate a lot. You can discover a lot. If you want to progress in Advaita, you need to do this type of investigations. You need to look into the human experience. Write down your conclusions, perhaps. If you want a deeper workout on this, if you are interested in awakening, which requires, by the way, to have clarity about what the mind is about, and what no mind is about, then you may consider the awakening protocol. There is a link below this video. In that session, we will be working with the concepts that I have shared with you. We will be investigating together the whole thing. You will likely save a lot of time. But regardless, you want to progress in Advaita, look into the mind. Investigate the mind. Nisargadatta Maharaj said, if you want to know the real, have a good look first to the unreal. The mind is the unreal. The no mind is the real.